Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, Anita Finley.
Good morning, Darwin.
Good morning to you, Anita.
We appreciate it. You heard we got a dog.
I'm so happy you did, and I was sorry to hear about the death.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah, I really was mourning, and somehow Snowy decided we needed to have another dog. So nothing would do, and we have a little Shih Tzu, and his name is Charlie, and that's it. So let's get on to...
I'll tell you,
what?
I've lost many pets in my lifetime, and I remember all of them with great love and affection. I'm a great animal lover, you know that. But I'm so glad to talk to you this morning. I'm just brimming over with an issue that I want to talk about, and that is the unprecedented debate going on about the face of American currency. It's been quite a debate, and who is going to be on the face of the $10 bill, the $20 bill, or et cetera. And it all began when the Obama administration decided to put a woman on the face of the U.S. currency. Some stories said that was never done before. That's not true. 100 years ago, Martha Washington was on a silver certificate, so Martha Washington would be the first woman. But the debate is on, and originally Andrew Jackson it was to be replaced on the face of the $10 bill. And however, the Secretary of Treasury, Jack Lew, went to see Hamilton, the hit musical on Broadway, and changed his mind about removing Hamilton.
Oh, that's interesting.
This is one of the biggest hits of all time. It just was a pure surprise. Although many people say the script of Hamilton is a bit of a whitewash on Hamilton, but he was a great man. I often visited his birthplace on my favorite island in the Caribbean, Nevis, and where he was born. He was illegitimate, and he grew up there, but he came to America and certainly revolutionized the country. I mean, he became the founder, really, of the American economy. By then, it was often state-issued before he took over, and the critics are weighing in. He did have his flaws. You know, he had an affair for 3 years with a married woman. He had to make blackmail payments. He had a fondness for dueling, and he fought 10 duels, and of course he lost the last one to Aaron Burr. I mean, he couldn't win. You know, he won 10, but the 11th one proved fatal, and people criticized him even for going into that duel because he left a wife and 7 children penniless, and his wife had to struggle for the rest of her life to support her family. But what Hamilton did for the American economy was just incredible, and he certainly deserves his place. So he's going to be saved on the $10 bill, on the $20 bill. I'm sorry, on the his face will be saved. But as it's been determined, Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill is going to take the hit because he is increasingly viewed as unfavorable. Now, someone said if you view the standards of the 21st century, if you went retro, most of our founding fathers would not pass the test. And the criticism of Andrew Jackson was that he was a slave owner. He was attacked for his brutal treatment of the Indians. But all that has to be placed in its time zone. First, I always thought Andrew Jackson should have statues of him, Hickory, should have statues of him placed throughout Florida. I mean, he was the founding he was the first governor of Florida in 1821. He was at war with the Seminoles and but they were being backed by Spain and the British, and so it was really a fight for Florida, and he won. He invaded Pensacola, which was the capital, and got rid of the governor, who was from Spain, and then he ruled Florida, at least until that Christmas of 1821. So technically, he could be called the founding father of Florida, and he brought Florida into the Union. And he also, as a general, won the War of 1812. So he was not a man without his accomplishments. So I wouldn't rush to send him immediately to the dustbin of history.
You know, it's interesting how you know so much history. I mean,
Well, I grew up in Florida.
I know, but Darwin, when you went to college, did you ever study history? How does this happen? You just have such a great memory.
I always had, as you know, from my writings and everything, a great interest in the people who were president. But I also almost had equal interest in the women who were first lady. Indeed, as I do today. And but now, let's see. There have been polls taken, and Secretary Lew has finally decided that Harriet Tubman will become the face of the $20 bill. Now, from what I've gathered, Harriet Tubman does not have a lot of name recognition. She was a famous abolitionist. She ran the Underground Railroad. Many slaves fled from the southern zone into the north, and she was a great freedom fighter and civil rights leader. But apparently the polling done, I think, actually favored Eleanor Roosevelt. Now, it is to compare Harriet Tubman to Eleanor Roosevelt is one of those apples and oranges comparison. Eleanor Roosevelt certainly deserves something, I think, far more than she has gotten. First, she was really the before Martin Luther King, she was the first really major civil rights leader in America. She fought for the integration of the military. She asked her husband to put more African Americans into government. She was a great, great woman on many issues. Oddly enough, her greatest achievement, which will probably be recorded as a major landmark in history, she presided in San Francisco in 1948 over the first Declaration of Human Rights, and the world had never seen that before. She was opposed by Russia and the communist satellites, South Africa and Saudi Arabia, but she ruled them out of order and forced it through. And this will be a landmark decision. Now, as Hillary Clinton in Geneva also advocated that Eleanor's plan should continue because, as you know, millions of people around the world are still enslaved, and so the slavery in the United States might have ended in 1865, but it hasn't ended around the world. So many people want Eleanor Roosevelt to still stand in some form or another as one of the great women of all time, and a woman who aspired to something that we are still far, far from achieving, which is civil rights. However, the $10 bill will be redesigned a bit, and on the back will be Susan B. Anthony. Now, you know she was the most famous of all the suffragettes, and so she'll be on the back. They'll keep Hamilton on the front, but Susan B. Anthony, among Alice Paul and some of the other leaders of the suffragette movement, will come out on the on the back of the new $10 bill, and this will not. All these bills will probably not be in circulation until at least 2020, and maybe in some cases 2030. but the 2020 would mark the beginning, the ratification of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. So that would be a great time to come out with Susan B. Anthony's picture. Now, Eleanor, my beloved Eleanor Roosevelt, will be at least on the back of the new $5 bill, which will still have, of course, Lincoln on the face of the bill, but she will alternate with Martin Luther King Jr. And the great opera diva Marian Anderson. So they're going to be putting pictures then on the back of these bills.
That's wonderful news, Darwin. I don't think anyone listening to the show even knows this. I sure didn't, and it's not popularized very much.
Well, I found out a lot of people, based on surveys, didn't even know who Harriet Tubman was. And, of course, more people will in time find out who she is. I did find out something interesting. The $20 bill is circulated, of course, all over the planet. I mean, I've got to travel all over the world, and you see American currency everywhere. In fact, I've been to countries that would not accept their own currency, but demanded American currency. And there are 9 billion $20 bills in circulation around the world. And so getting on one of these bills is a great honor, you know. Now, of course, all of this will meet objections. You know, this is America, and there are always two sides to every story in America. And Ben Carson, the neurosurgeon who ran for president ran for the GOP nomination and lost, is now supporting Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump and Ben Carson have weighed in. They think it's very nice to honor Madam Tubman, but they think that she should be on the face of the $2 bill and not the $20 bill. Now, I've talked to some people, they don't know there is such a thing as a $2 bill.
Let me tell you a funny story about that, because I was collecting $2 bills. I used to give them as part of our media kit. And I gave them to a couple of people, and they thought it was a joke.
Yes, a lot of people think it was play money. But there is a legitimate. Apparently now, I should immediately say Thomas Jefferson is on the cover of the $2 bill. But many people wouldn't accept them because, you're right, they didn't think it was a legitimate bill. They don't print a lot of them, but it is legal tender with Jefferson on. So anyway, Donald Trump, who, as you might have heard, is seeking the presidency of the United States, thinks Tubman should replace Thomas Jefferson, but we should leave Andrew Jackson where he is on the. Hillary, of course, has applauded the selection of Tubman, although her Republican opponents have charged that she is just doing that to pander to the African American vote. See, whatever is said in America, there will always be someone who has something just the opposite to say.
Well, let me ask you a question. Is it the Secretary of the Treasury who makes these decisions?
Well, it has to be. It can be. The Secretary of the Treasury has great ruling over currency. And as I said, Secretary Lew has actually taken over Alexander Hamilton's job. But he can also go against the will of the people. For example, if it were placed on a popular vote based on the poll they took in 2015, Eleanor Roosevelt would be on the cover. But the Secretary of the Treasury apparently has a lot of power. He should also have the blessing of the Obama administration. Now, interestingly enough, many people in the polling in 2015 selected Michelle Obama to be the face of the currency. That would not be politically popular with the GOP. And an equal number thought Hillary Clinton should be. So this debate can get very, very partisan, you know.
Let me ask you a question now that you're talking about that. Has there been much debate about having a different president on the mountain in Mount Rushmore?
Yes, but in my unlearned opinion, I don't think that will ever happen.
Right.
I talked to the people there at Mount Rushmore, and they said they've had many, many suggestions, but that may never happen. I wanted to tell you one more thing. Oddly enough, in the history of the $10 bill, Andrew Jackson used to be on the cover of the $10 bill in 1914, and then when it was reissued, he was put on the $20 bill. So people who collect rare currency, an Andrew Jackson on a $10 bill is considered really a gift in your treasure trove. Now, Alexander Hamilton didn't come on to the face of the bill until 1929, which everyone knows was a lot of people in 1929 in America would like to see a $20 bill.
Right.
the time of the great Wall Street crash. And now, oddly enough, he replaced Grover Cleveland on the bill. And now this is really amazing. Before that, Grover Cleveland replaced George Washington. Imagine Grover Cleveland replacing George Washington, but he did. And as I've checked my wallet, I have a assortment of bills, thank God. And as everybody knows, George Washington was finally put on the face of the $1 bill, which is the most widely used currency in the world. Is George Washington on
yes, right.
$1 bill. And now, you know, there is a $50 bill and a $100 bill. A lot of people don't see many of those, but if you ever take a look, General Grant, our President Grant, is on the face of the $50 bill, and Benjamin Franklin is on the face of the $100 bill. And so it is the monopoly, and many people in women's liberation think that the time has come to end the monopoly of men on the cover of American currency. So that is about to end not for quite a while yet. It takes a long time. Now, that doesn't mean that Jackson is going to completely disappear, because I think those $9 billion in currency around the world, $9 billion $20 bills will not disappear overnight. They'll probably be in circulation for the rest of the century.
So maybe what you're saying, we should save some of them, put them away in our safety deposit box for 50 years from now, right?
It'd be better to have the Andrew Jackson on the $10 bill. You get a lot more money that way. But if you really want to collect money, you have to have one of those Martha Washington silver dollars. That really brings in the big bucks, you know.
And
by the way, the nickname for Harriet Tubman was the Black She-Moses.
No kidding. Really?
And again, her selection will be viewed in many quarters as a politically motivated, but certainly she deserves a great honor. But I really have as you know from my previous talks, in her later life, I got to know Eleanor Roosevelt very briefly and on several occasions. And, of course, I do everything to defend the legacy of Eleanor Roosevelt. I think what she did as an active First Lady, you know, we've talked Betty Ford, Jackie Kennedy, Nancy Reagan, and I don't mean to diminish either of those fine ladies, but Eleanor Roosevelt took such an active part. And then a lot of people don't know that, but there was strong pressure on Mrs. Roosevelt to run for president of the United States.
I didn't know that.
And, of course, she would have to take on Harry S. Truman. That's Harry S. Truman with no period after the S. Someone once told me, you left off a period after the S, and I told him that the president himself in Key West, Florida, the ex-president, told me the S stood for nothing.
Oh, wait a minute. He didn't have it was just S, there was no middle name?
That's right. He said there's no period after it because his family could never agree. One family wanted Sebastian, and for the moment I forget, the other family wanted another name that started with S. So they finally agreed, he said, to ask to remove the period. And the first time I wrote a story about him, he said, you misspelled my name. And I thought, how could I misspell the name of Harry S. Truman? He said, you put a period after the S, and there is no period after the S, because no one could ever, my family, the warring branches of my family could never agree on what the S stood for. So we just wrote S.
I think that this is the only show that anybody learned about Harry S. without a period Truman. And I want everyone
I notified the Miami Herald, and I wrote them, and I don't know what they do now, but the Miami Herald issued an order that we had been misspelling the name of the President of the United States. But when he first told me that, I thought, my God, I read the article. What did I misspell? Harry or Truman?
Right.
It never occurred to me that I made an error with the S.
Well, you're not perfect, but you're almost perfect. And Darwin, I want everyone to know, really, we jumped into this so quickly, but we've been listening to Darwin Porter, who's calling in from Staten Island. And if you read Boomer Times, you will see his wonderful celebrity column every single month. We're so excited. And this one coming up, you're going to love. Oh, my heavens. You're going to see Dolly Madison, who, and I didn't even know you spelled Dolly, Dolley.
I know. That's another one that is commonly misspelled because she added an E to it. And but I'll tell you, one thing I'll never, after Mr. Truman, President Truman, I shouldn't say Mr., President Truman told me that I misspelled his name, I went back and memorized every name of every president and every first lady. So that's how Dolly spelled her name.
Yeah, I got that. Well, Darwin, it's wonderful to talk to you. I have to say that I have to thank you and Danforth for just being the most wonderful hosts at your home. We loved it. It was a great experience, and we appreciate you so much. And I hope that everything is going to be great. In fact, we're looking forward to the Ferris wheel.
Oh, yes, everything will change here. By the way, someone has pointed out that if Hillary Clinton becomes president, she will be the first president that never had a first lady.
Oh, that's it. And also, it'll be interesting to see first time that the president and the other president, that I've had that someone put that the president is sleeping with someone else who is the president. I mean, I know how they put it, but it was very funny. First time.
It would be the first. I don't know. That's another story for another day.
That's right.
There may have been two presidents who once slept together.
Oh, yeah, something like that. Exactly.
So we can't say that Hillary and Bill would be the first two presidents. There may be one case in American history.
Oh, I got it. Okay, we'll have to come up with that another time.
That's a story
for
another
time. Darwin, thank you so much. Have a wonderful week, and happy 4th of July.
And the same to you.
All right.
Good luck. And
bye.
Happy new dog.
Oh, yeah, I'll send you a picture of our new dog.